Hello there, RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. Well, this is not a video I wanted to make today, or ever, as a matter of fact. Piranha Bytes, the RPG studio from Germany that's been working since like 1997, and they're best known for Gothic, Reason and Elex series, is apparently shutting down, at least according to a couple of reputable sources from the internet. First of all, none of these informations are official from Piranha Bytes or THQ Nordic, which is their publisher, so take all of this with a grain of salt, but we have a bunch of information from various sources from the internet, like I said, so we're going to go through all of these sources and all the information we have available right now and talk a little bit about the possibilities of this studio closing down. And as you probably know, this is one of my most favorite game studios ever because I'm a huge Gothic fan. I play all of their games basically and cover them on the channel. So if all of this is actually true, I'm going to be very sad to say the least. But I also want to talk about why I think that studios like Piranha Bytes are really important, especially nowadays. So Piranha Bytes is owned by THQ Nordic, which is the publisher for all of their games, and THQ Nordic is owned by Embracer Group. So if you heard about Embracer Group, you probably know about the whole fiasco that started like in the middle of the last year when they fumbled like a $1 billion deal. Embracer had to cut costs however they could, so they started closing studios left and right. For example, they closed down the Volition studio, which has been developing games for the last 30 years, and they also fired a lot of people from Gearbox Publishing. Then we came to this situation that's been happening for the last couple of days, and it's been covered by a couple of reputable German websites which have close connections to Piranha Bytes. I translated all this to English without a translate option on Google Chrome, so I apologize if some information is not translated well, but I think it's good enough. Tech New Space website had this article as well, where they said that moderators of the German podcast The Pod, former GameStar editors, add that Embracer ordered Piranha Bytes to close in November, but THQ Nordic, the studio direct owner, was able to obtain a stay of the judgment. And this is not the only article where people said that THQ Nordic is trying their best to save Piranha Bytes from being closed down. Due to German laws protecting employee rights, the liquidation process has not yet been completed. GameStar sources claim that all that's left of Piranha Bytes is an empty shell, and work on the new game stopped. And on top of all of this, the creative director Bjorn Pankratz, that's been around almost since the studio has been discovered back in 1997, I think, has left the studio because of the disagreement between him and the team. Apparently the team wanted to make a new Gothic game, but Bjorn didn't, and he wanted to continue with Elex series because he moved on from Gothic a long time ago, and apparently that was the reason why he left the studio. Elex 2's financial failures weren't a deciding factor in the decision to close the studio. All teams with games in early development were candidates for layoffs, but they didn't exactly help matters. About 8 months after Elex 2 released, I made this video where I talk about how Elex 2 failed, I guess, and a lot of people were doubtful because they didn't have any concrete information, but all of the info we had up to that point were pointing to this direction, that Elex 2 wasn't that successful title, and that Piranha Bytes failed to sell enough copies to please THQ Nordic and Embracer Group at the same time, right? Despite this, Piranha Bytes was supposed to receive the funding from the Federal Ministry of Economics and Climate Protection. They were supposed to receive $3.1 million, and they had their game listed as codename Wiki6, but pretty much everyone knew that this is Piranha Bytes posting their Elex 3 as codename Wiki6. In the meantime, the website removed Wiki6 from the funding, and people were like, okay, that pretty much confirms that Piranha Bytes is closing down and that Elex 3 is not happening. But the latest update from January 18th says the following. The Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Protection speaks of an oversight with regard to the listing of the Piranha Bytes project in the official database. Upon request, the ministry confirmed that the game with the working title Wiki6, subsided $3.2 million, completion by 2026, was in fact not available on the website. The reason given by the BMWK is the renaming of the project, which is now operating under the working title Currywurst, presumably in the reference to the studio's headquarters in Essen. The ministry also confirmed that, unlike the planned and now discontinued game from the Hamburg Embracer studio Flash Labs, it is now an ongoing project. Piranha Bytes has therefore not yet withdrawn the application, possibly with a view to a dowry worth millions if the studio and the trademark rights are transferred to a new publisher or investor. The BMW case subsidies as parts of the game's funding are paid out step by step and distributed over the entire development period, in this case until the beginning of 2026. So it seems like Piranha Bytes is still going to receive this funding, and they just renamed the project from Wiki6 to Currywurst. And they're only going to receive the funding if they manage to secure the new publisher or the new owner, I guess. So that's good news. But I'm still worried about those layoffs because Piranha Bytes is not a huge studio. They have around 35 people, and according to those websites we already mentioned, Piranha Bytes already fired a lot of people from the studio, and a lot is, I don't know how much from 35 people, but yeah, that's worrying to say the least. So if it happens that a new publisher or whoever buys out Piranha Bytes, they will have to hire new people to work on Elex 3 and all the future projects. We also don't know the state of Elex 3's development, but if we assume, I guess, it should be deep in development since Elex 2 came out in 2022, and right after Elex 2 released, they started working on Elex 3 because that's how Piranha Bytes usually operates. Elex 2 released right after Elden Ring, which was a huge mistake, and even a child could see that's a huge mistake for the studio, but they kind of didn't care because Piranha Bytes always have this loyal fan base. Although you always want to reach out to as many people as possible to play your game, obviously, and releasing a game after such an anticipated title is a huge mistake. I talked about this in my previous videos on the channel as well. We also knew that Piranha Bytes is not interested in creating DLCs or any additional content for the game. They usually don't do this with their games. They release a full game and maybe an expansion like with Gothic 2, but that was a long time ago, and only Reason 2 and Reason 3 had some very small DLCs, but that's completely irrelevant. They focus on creating a new game right after the game released, so yeah, which is smart if you think about it, because they're a really small studio, so they don't want to waste time. The second major concern that Piranha Bytes fans had is the Piranha Bytes official website, which only shows you a Piranha Bytes logo when you enter, but this could mean a lot of things. It could mean that the website is just being updated and redesigned. If you ever visited this website in the past, you know it looks like it came straight out of the early 2000s, and that's because I guess Piranha Bytes doesn't care that much, and they're owned by THQ Nordic, and all of their games have unique website address which you can visit that look way better than official Piranha Bytes website. So yeah, that's not a major concern of mine personally, although when you put it together with all that's happening currently, it's certainly another point of concern in general. I'm still actively looking for all the updates about this matter, and I didn't want to make this video yesterday, even though I could, but I wanted to wait and see what's going to happen, if the official statement is going to be released from Piranha Bytes, THQ or whoever about this matter, because I usually don't like to cover leaks, rumors and stuff like that, but this seems like it has a lot of reputable sources behind all of this information, especially from German websites, like I mentioned before, that have close ties with Piranha Bytes itself. So yeah, this is probably going to happen, and we're just waiting for the official announcement from Piranha Bytes. But the big question is, will Elex 3 happen after all if they secure this funding? But that, like I said before, that also means they'll have to hire some new people, assuming they're going to be owned by another studio or a publishing company. But one thing is for certain, if they manage to get out of this situation alive and well, and they continue working on Elex 3 and future games in Piranha Bytes, I think we're going to see some major changes. And that's especially because, as we could see here, Bjorn left because he wanted to continue on Elex franchise, and the team wanted to make another Gothic game. So if Piranha Bytes managed to secure that funding and a new publishing company, that means we could possibly see another Gothic game in works in the future, which is very exciting and very concerning at the same time. I mean, that's the silver lining here, but we obviously don't know anything until Piranha Bytes or THQ Nordic comes out officially with a statement. So we'll have to wait for that to confirm anything, and I'll probably make a video about that as well, because like I said, it's my favorite RPG studio and I really care about their future and the games they produce. Piranha Bytes have been working on these huge open world RPGs ever since 1997, and even though these games have a lot of issues that we could talk about, they also have a lot of good things about them. These games can offer you more than 100 hours of gameplay, and especially if you want to replay the game, you can try a lot of new things and play the game differently than you did before. So if it happens that you like one of their games, you can possibly get a lot of hours from those games and replay them in the future, play the game differently and stuff like that. They're huge RPGs, even though we could point out a lot of their issues, which I did in my previous reviews. Even if it happens that you don't particularly like the games they're making right now, that could always change in the future, because just don't forget, even studios like CD Projekt Red were a very small, first publishing studio, then gaming studio. Speaking of which, CD Projekt Red was heavily influenced by Piranha Bytes games, and Witcher was really influenced by Gotti games. So yeah, you never know when one of these smaller studios can break out and gain a lot of funding and a lot of money for the next project, and boom, you have another Witcher 3. I mean, that's very rare, but it can still happen. Anyway guys, that will be all the info we have about this topic right now, and I would not panic that much yet until we get anything official from Piranha Bytes and THQ Nordic. So yeah, be sure to follow me and subscribe, because I will cover this topic in the future as well. I'm just waiting for more info about the topic, and I'll make another video about the future of Piranha Bytes games. I usually don't do this very much, but when when the situation like this happens, I just feel like I need to make a video. Feel free to check out my other content on the channel. I make videos about RPGs, reviews, previews, and I also cover a lot of old RPGs in my Hidden Gems or Trash series. You can also check out some of my t-shirts and hoodies on the official store. I have many different designs in the theme of the channel. Many thanks to all of my channel members and Patreons, and I'll see you in the next one.